Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Thursday, July 6, 2023 Public Works Committee meeting. And first order is called order, and we'll do roll call. And we have Councilmember Schneider, Councilmember Althauser, and myself, Councilmember Swarthout present. Let's see, the first thing we'll do too is to approve the minutes from the June 8th, 2023 meeting. So I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, got the minutes taken care of. Now let's move on to, we've got Mary Heather up for a few things here today. The first one being the local agency agreement supplement and prospectus with WSDOT for the Israel Road and Lunderson Way pedestrian and bicycle improvements. Take it away, Mary Heather.
All right. I have, in an attempt to make this a little bit more streamlined, because I know you really want to get to the CFP with Brandon, I'm going to actually talk about these three items together. So first I'm going to talk about the process, and then we'll hit the highlights of each project before I pause for you to ask questions, and I hope then take action on each item individually. So first off, what are we even talking about? And we are talking about obligation, which is not like a social obligation where you have to make an appearance. Instead, it's a process where we go through after we're successful in obtaining federal grant funds. This essentially indicates to the state and federal folks that we are ready to start spending the money that we have been awarded. And we might do this right after getting the award, or it might be a couple years later. Obligation involves submitting a packet of paperwork to WSDOT local programs, which includes the local agency agreement, or for the first one, a supplement to that, and the local agency federal aid project prospectus. And when we want to save words, we call these the LAA and the prospectus. We also submit information regarding the scope of work, such as what we're going to be accomplishing. This is checked to make sure that we are planning to do work that complies with the requirements of the funding. So together, all of this paperwork gives a picture of how and when the money will be spent and what the state can expect as far as their cash flow for the project. Final important piece of information is that the prospectus requires the mayor's signature, which is my reason for being here today. So now on to the projects. And this first one is the Israel Road, Lunderson Way pedestrian and bicycle improvements project. This project will widen sidewalks, enhance crosswalks, upgrade pedestrian facilities at the intersection of Israel Road and Lunderson Way. This project has been around for a while, and you've seen related information before, and this is why this one is a supplement. We were actually successful for a second time in our grant applications. So for this, we have the supplement and the prospectus. So it was previously awarded STBG, Surface Transportation Block Grant funding, and then we received an additional award in 2020. And these documents signify the city's acceptance of the funds and our pledge to complete the project. For that reason, we request that you, Public Works Committee, recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for the Israel Road and Lunderson Way pedestrian and bicycle improvements project.
That was quick.
Yes,
So,
we'll do it again 2 more times.
Okay. All right. Okay, gentlemen.
I guess my question applies to this and will apply to the other items too. Is like if we accept the funds, and as a condition of accepting the funds, we agree that we have to complete the project. Well, what happens if the project doesn't become completed? Do we have to reimburse the feds with that grant money that we otherwise would have received? Like that's the quote unquote risk associated with accepting it. Is that right?
Sure. So we are required, once a project has federal funding in the phases, then we have a certain amount of time to finish the project. Um, we are careful not to federalize a project for that reason. So we choose projects that we have reasonable confidence that we will complete within the time frame. So while that is a risk, I think it's one that has been minimized through the selection of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Schneider, do you have any questions? Okay, yeah, I see it, this one following up on Councilmember Althauser's comment that the agreement end date is, we have until December 31st of 2028. So we've got a
Yes,
good 5 years.
they
Mhm.
so the way we end up doing those, they recommend when you think you'll have it done and then adding 3 years. So we believe we'll be done in 2025, but we add 3
Mhm.
years because goodness knows the way paperwork can happen. It might be a while.
All right. Okay, with that, do we have a motion to approve that authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for Israel Road and Lenderson Way pedestrian and bicycle improvements? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Okay.
Back
All right,
to
Mary
the
Heather, run
show.
down and 2 to go.
Okay, moving to the next one. Next, we have the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project. You're pretty familiar with this project at this point. We just went through an amendment to the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program in March in order to add this project. The project received $2.1 million in PROTECT funds, which stands for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. We're working on a pretty accelerated timeline in order to get this work done in the 2024 fish window. So once again, completion of these agreements signifies the city's acceptance of the funds and the pledge to complete the project. So with that, staff request that the Public Works Committee recommend City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project.
All right. Okay, do we have questions, Michael?
Just for the public's viewing, this is the same project we've talked about a number of times before,
Mhm.
right? So it's like if people want more details on it, we can, all that is available on our website. This is just for authorizing the use of federal funds on a project we've already committed to as a jurisdiction,
Yes.
which is a question I knew the answer to, but just for people watching at home, the reason why we're not going through the details is because we've done it a number of times before, and it's a great
Yes.
project, and we're all excited about it getting off the ground.
The tie to our transportation system, because you might think fish barrier removal, that's is that this does go under the SAP road. So this is a culvert replacement under SAP road.
Cool. And remind me again when hopefully we'll get that one underway, because it looks like you said we have a 2024, we're hoping to get it done next year.
So right now what we're working on is starting the right-of-way process. And that's the maybe the next step, and it can be sometimes it can take longer or shorter amounts of time. So we want to get it done as quickly as possible. Then it sounds like probably bidding end of this year, beginning of next year for that fish window next year.
Okay, perfect. All right, it'll be fun when that finally gets going. So yeah, set our salmon free. So all right, so we do have a recommended action in front of us that the Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for the Percival Creek Fish Passage Barrier Removal Project. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll do that one.
Okay, I'll second that then.
Thanks, gentlemen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. One down and one more to go, Mary Heather.
Okay. And our third and final project for today is the traffic signal controller and detection upgrade. This project deals with older signal equipment at various intersections throughout the city with the goal of increased efficiency for road users. So vehicle drivers, cyclists, pedestrians. And specifically, we'll be looking at detection methods and the signal controllers, which are really the brains that dictate the functioning of the signal. In 2020, we received an award of $302,750, and these are congestion mitigation and air quality improvement program funds. Because those are related to the air quality, there was a specific area that we were allowed to spend the funds within. So we have a total of 11 intersections all within that area. 8 of them will be a controller replacement, 6 of them a detection replacement, which means there are 3 overlapping signals that will have both. Let's see. And this is the last one for today, but of course, no less important. So we request that Public Works Committee recommend the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for the traffic signal controller and detection upgrade project.
Thank you. Do we have questions? I was curious, the intersections then, this is just 11 of them. So where will we see these just offhand?
So my hope is that the only thing you'll notice is that you're getting through an intersection maybe just a fraction faster. But there are intersections on Little Rock, the one at Trosper, and then the 2 to the south at the business driveways, basically. There's Yelm Highway in Henderson. There's North and Cleveland or Custer, depending. There's one on Capitol Boulevard. They're spread throughout the city within that air quality attainment area.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is a new one for us. I wasn't sure. So
Yeah,
all those spots were going to be hopefully the major intersections that we have. Yeah.
what we did actually is, so it may not be the major intersections, but what we did was looked at our equipment, and it was where the older equipment that hasn't been replaced. That's what the ones that we identified. So
the most major one's going to be a roundabout, so we won't need to upgrade.
Yeah, right. We see those. Yeah, for the time being. So yeah. So does that help, like with the timing and everything, as far as syncing up the lights?
Yeah,
because it's always such a challenge, you know. Trosper and Little Rock is always such an interesting one. So yeah.
Yes. So there are twofold benefits to doing this. Number one, the new detection, we can ensure that we're getting the pedestrians and bicycles. So we'll be choosing equipment that is known for making sure that we get that. And then the other is when you have good detection and you have good controllers, you can optimize the signal to flow more smoothly. So you're not sitting there with a red light for someone sitting there and green lights where there is no one, which we don't really have that issue at Little Rock and Trosper, but at other intersections. So anytime we can reduce idling, it's better for the environment. We have less emissions. So, but
Very
as
good.
Councilmember Althauser pointed out, the roundabouts are also very good at that.
All right. That'll be interesting. We finally take our signals down over on that side. So, all right. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mary Heather? Okay. All right. With that, then, as she said, Public Works Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local agency prospectus for the traffic signal controller and detection upgrade project. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, Mary Heather. No,
Thank you very
thank you so
much.
much. And
I was
we'll
just going to
bring
say,
up Brandon. Good
I
morning,
was gonna say
Brandon. How
real
are
quick
you?
if I could. Oh, good morning. For those last three action items, I would recommend
yes.
go on consent. Are you all
Okay.
okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome, Mary Heather.
Thank you.
And now I won't interrupt if, so is it okay if I go? All right.
And you're up with our capital facilities plan.
Okay, so I'll start off by saying that I thought that there was another item today for Dan Smith and it looks like it got pulled. So there's a chance that we get done early because I tried to make this to where we're quick. Historically, though, during the capital facilities plan discussions for general governmental and transportation, they take more than an hour in our initial briefing, but it should go pretty quickly today because I'm mainly going to focus on all the new ones. And so I guess I'm supposed to enter with I'm Brandon Hicks, Transportation and Engineering Director. So we'll just insert that before the last thing I said. So again, I'm going to focus on the new projects. Any of the ones that have been there before, feel free to ask questions. We can just kind of do a free for all as we go through the slides here. I should probably bring up my slideshow. Okay. Okay, here we go. So here's the typical basic information that we say every time. Cities, or the CFP is part of the city's comprehensive plan. And the CFP is a 6-year coordinated plan detailing capital projects that we intend to dedicate resources to. The capital projects that are included typically deal with the purchase, construction, replacement, addition, or major repair of public facilities and major equipment. And these projects differ from routine maintenance ones because they're greater than $25,000 in order to make the CFP, and they have a useful life that's over 1 year. And some examples of the types of projects that you're going to see in the CFP include large facility projects or streets, utility systems, bridges, parks, fire trucks, things like that. Just think large expenses. So typically you're not going to see projects in there from like the finance department unless we're doing like the ERP system and major software upgrades. The CFP is not a financial commitment. It's simply a plan and it informs the budget. But most of the time, if you have a large project that you want to consider, the best way to get it within the budget is to get it in this planning document. I'm losing my ability to, did it go to the next slide? Okay, yeah, there we go. There's 5 primary fund pools in the CFP, and they're separated into non-utility and utility on those 2 categories. The non-utility projects are funded by a variety of sources. They include general fund dollars, grants, utility taxes, real estate excise taxes, impact fees, Metropolitan Parks District, Transportation Benefit District, and several other sources. And then the utility projects are primarily funded through rates and development. And then storm projects also receive some grant funding on occasion as well. The capital projects that are included in the draft documents are primarily derived from plans that council adopts. And I have some of them on the screen, but we actually have several other planning documents. There's also major projects derived from Metropolitan Parks District and Transportation Benefit District documents that were put out when we were outreaching residents. Some projects are in response or in preparation for development activities, such as sometimes we might acquire right away in advance of a development for things like a roundabout, if that roundabout is in an existing transportation plan. Some projects are added when grant revenue is obtained for specific project types. And that's often when you'll see projects that kind of seem like they pop out of nowhere. They might be like transportation projects that we know there's an issue in that particular vicinity, but it had not met the threshold to make the list based on prioritization. But if a grant comes out that is specific to that type of project that is not on the list, we might pursue those projects, and then we would put it on the CFP as soon as possible. Some are added for major facility or equipment needs, such as building renovation, and then the fire truck purchases. And then the last general group are those capital projects that are brought forward by council or staff that are, again, not part of an existing planning document. I provided drafts of the CFPs in your packet, at least the general governmental and transportation CFPs. And then I have those two on here on this slide. Usually on this slide, I have all 5 CFPs, so including the utility ones that are missing. Those are going to be briefed on in an upcoming meeting by Dan Smith, and the actual total numbers and number of projects are not determined yet. So I have those as question marks and estimated figures. For at least the general governmental and transportation CFPs, they tally to about $160 million, which is a really large number for Tumwater for those 2 CFPs. And a big part of that is the operations and maintenance facility is in the plan. And then another part would be that the Tumwater Boulevard interchange is starting to make the CFP. And so you're going to start seeing, a $7 million project here, a $7 million project there, as we work on one side of the interchange, then the other. And then eventually widen the overpass. Okay, so now I'll just jump into the CFPs. Does anybody have any questions about background process, anything like that? Okay, and I can only see 3 of you. So right now, Councilmember Althauser, if you do say something, just go ahead and unmic, or Councilmember Swarth, I'll call on you. And I can see you, Councilmember Schneider. So the general governmental CFP, it includes projects that support programs and activities that most people associate with just general operation of a city, other than the utility and transportation. For this group, you're going to want to think of fire, parks, police, facilities. Those are the general types of projects that you're going to see in this CFP. Major funding sources include utility tax, grants, parks impact fees, bonds, debt, levies, and then there's miscellaneous sources. Here is a copy of the summary sheet for the general governmental CFP. You can see on there that there are 36 projects, which is more than I like to see, because taking on 6 general governmental projects a year is a little bit lofty, but a lot of these will probably slip their way back as years go on, depending on capacity and funding. Let's see, 5 projects that are currently on the CFP are going to be removed from the CFP. And so those include the Deschutes River flood reduction and erosion control study, or erosion study. That was moved to the storm division of water resources and sustainability, and it should be complete before 2024. Fire station T1 improvements is being removed because it is complete. And you'll see in a little bit that it was replaced by fire station T2 improvements, the same exact improvement type. The craft beverage startup facility has been removed. That particular program that was being pursued by John Doan, we're no longer pursuing it, and I believe that we could not figure out the funding mechanism at this time. The arts project that was in here during the last cycle has been removed, and the thought is that we're going to create more of an arts program. Funding would be, there is a little bit of money in the general fund that is earmarked for an initial project, and then right now the idea is that when the city takes on large facilities projects, that we would earmark some percentage of the construction cost to go towards the arts program. And the number that's been floated around right now that we're actually using on the operations facility is 1% of construction costs, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when you're talking about a $32 million project for the operations facility, and then when you think about the community center, it does add up. And then the participation in the regional housing project, which uses CBDG dollars, has been removed. It really never belonged in the capital facilities plan. It's pass-through dollars, as you're aware. And then I believe it's supposed to end in the near future, and don't quote me on this. And it may come back. I don't fully understand at this time, and sorry for not researching ahead of time. Okay, so just diving right into the projects. This first one you can see is the Prairie Mitigation Land Acquisition. We're trying to acquire grants in order to make this happen. And really, this is seed money to get the mitigation process started. Because, you know, once we get done with the HCP, it really is just a document that we can't do anything with until we actually have mitigation, a form of a mitigation bank to draw from. And so the hope is that we could come up with grant funding for that seed money. If we don't get grant funding soon, the city's probably going to have to pivot towards some other fund source. And it may be just internal city dollars. The next project that has been added is the golf course maintenance shop stormwater improvements. This project, along with the next two, were derived through actually NPDES permitting issues. So there are certain requirements that we have to meet. The Department of Ecology tells us through our NPDES permit, and we had some compliance issues that we need to address. So this is the first one. Second one is the golf course fueling station renovation. Now, those require hard surface underneath, and I think it's concrete, and they have to be covered. And the last one out there that was a golf course NPDES derived project is the golf course stockpile covers. And this is just to cover stockpiles such as aggregate, soil, and things of those natures. Now, you'll see in here that we do have, aside from the stockpile covers one, but the fueling station, which is quite expensive, and the maintenance shop stormwater improvements, we have programmed in grant funding. Water Resources and Sustainability, I believe, is going to try to acquire grants. If we are unable, we're going to have to use city dollars to finish these projects because they are a requirement. I believe this is the last general governmental added project that we'll find out when I switch to the next slide. But this is the City Hall parking expansion. Now, this used to be in the general governmental CFP. The idea was that we would finish paving out a grassy area over at the AG building, kind of where folks park for 4th of July parade, for example. And then city staff, those who were willing, would park over there and walk over. I am actually the one who was not a fan of the project just because it was hard for me to envision too many folks actually utilizing it. And then when COVID happened, I refer to it as about the one good thing that happened out of COVID, other than telework, was that all of a sudden we had parking availability here at City Hall. And if you ever come here during business hours, you can see that it is non-existent. We have City Hall folks parking on New Market Street, over in the operations parking lot, in the fire department parking lot, up in the guest parking spots. We are out of parking by a long shot. And so it has been added back in. Right now, I'm actually recommending that we utilize a portion of what is currently the operations yard behind the gate after they're relocated, because there's going to be more space than is needed for Parks and Recreation for quite a while. And we would take in the back corner near the existing parking area.
Can I ask this is Michael, can I ask a question about this one?
Oh, of course.
What kind of transit incentive programs, like do we have any sort of incentive programs like paying, I know bus is free now, but are you know, if some of our employees live in Pierce County where maybe they have to take Pierce Transit around in order to get to a bus, like, do we have any sort of incentive programs for commuting, like commute trip reduction programs or anything along those lines to also try to deal with this?
We do have the commute trip reduction program. Admittedly, I don't know too much about it because I'm unable to utilize it because where I live, it is really unwalkable to City Hall. And there is no transit, so I can't tell you the details, but we do have a commute trip reduction program, and it would be hard for me to imagine transit use not being in the list of eligible criteria. And so those are actually dollars on staff's paychecks.
Okay. Like when I was a state employee in the early 2010s, every day that you commuted, you got basically $2 if you did not do a single occupancy vehicle to get to work. So it was like a cash incentive. So that sort of sounds like what we already have, that it is not meeting the need. Is that right?
Correct. Ours is cash incentive. I'm pretty sure it's above $2 because of inflation, but
Yeah, I hope
but-
so. Okay, thanks.
yeah, of course.
Brandon,
Oh.
I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
So when Dan Smith and his department moves to SPSCC, how many parking spaces will be available because of that move?
So water resources and sustainability operations won't move, so we're not going to gain the bulk, and the bulk of that department is operations. On the office side, let's see if I can count quickly. I think we have 8 staff on the office side, so we would be gaining those 8 spots, assuming none of them commute or use some other form of transportation.
Okay, thank you.
And we're short significantly more than 8 right now, so.
Okay,
Okay, again, so fire station T2 improvements I mentioned is really just a replacement for the fire station T1 improvements. Same types of improvements as the last one, focusing mostly on a full kitchen remodel. Chief Hurley is really good at obtaining grants. He's a really good grant writer, and his intent is to try to find grants for this work. And if none are available, eventually we would program general fund dollars into the budget. Wow, they keep going, I guess. So this one is really just a placeholder. Former administrator John Doan, there was a conversation about this in a council meeting, and he recommended that we add it currently as a placeholder just to keep it on our radar. And this would be city participation in the facility. And Councilman Doan.
I just have a comment about this one. That for folks who haven't been to the animal control facility, it is incredibly needed. A new facility will be is needed today and will surely be needed in 2029. Like, it's in a pretty sad state of repair today. Where all the dogs are is not there. There was no planning for that room in terms of noise reduction. So when they bark, it echoes and gets louder and louder, and it's kind of this echo chamber that's keeps the dogs more agitated. They have incredible amounts of sewer problems. They have to spend money every year repairing pipes that are broken. I think the pipes going into that facility are those concrete tubes. They're not standard like what we would now use today in a modern facility. It's really small, like they have to use portables for certain services outside of the buildings. It's too small to have any kind of neutering or other dog or cat altering operations on site unless you have a portable. That said, I think it's what, so I was on animal services for like 3 or 4 years. I don't know how this totally, like, it'll be interesting to see what the financing plan for this facility actually looks like. This sort of seems like the kind of thing to me that eventually we might have to go to voters for countywide, because the bill to build a brand new facility, you also would have to build it on a bigger parcel. So they're going to have to like acquire land and build a new building. So hopefully we can actually in the next few years come up with a comprehensive plan for how to do this in a sustainable fashion that has dedicated revenue to it, so that we're not at the whims of jurisdictions contributing money every year. Like,
Mhm.
we contribute money to this and it's a really important service we should be supporting. But, at a certain point in time, the county pulled out. Like, I think I think animal services, and this is getting a bit of a soapbox, just needs probably countywide control at some point in time, and probably also dedicated revenue. But that's obviously beyond the
Mhm.
scope of the CFP. And I don't even sit on animal services anymore. But so yeah, for what it's worth, this is very important, but I hope it can be financed in a different way come 2029.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess one thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering if they'll be doing like a capital project, kind of like what they did with the Performing Arts Center or something like that, that they'll be looking out to the community as far as community support in addition to the jurisdictions pitching in their portion as well.
And all I was going to add there is that the dollar number there, $20 million, is a placeholder. It sounds
Mhm.
large when you say it, but as
Mhm.
folks are probably seeing, as every time that I come to you, I'm mentioning costs are sky high and they're not changing. They're continuing to go up.
Mhm.
And so $20 million for a facility really is not a lot of money these days. And we're finding that out with the operations facility, and we're probably soon going to find it out with the community center. Is that all is everything good on animal services? Okay. So moving on to the transportation CFP, there are less new projects in this one, so we are actually pretty close to being done. The projects in this CFP support multimodal programs and projects to preserve and improve function and safety of the existing infrastructure. And to provide capacity necessary to accommodate the growth related to our planned land use. The types of projects that you can anticipate here are all related to the transportation network. And oftentimes that includes significant trail projects make it into the transportation CFP as a multimodal form of transportation. Major funding sources include a portion of the utility tax for the city, real estate excise tax, arterial street gas tax, grants, transportation impact fees, mitigation fees, and transportation benefit district funds. There are 26 projects included in the proposed list for 2024 through 2029 in the transportation CFP. In this project, in the CFP, I also keep a reserve list, and this is partially because of those, the out of the blue grant opportunities, in addition to keeping it on our minds for if there's development or if we need to reprioritize for capacity reasons. 3 projects that are currently on the CFP are going to be removed. One of them because it's complete, and that is the Capitol Boulevard Corridor Plan Israel to M Street design. So you might recall that was a little over $1 million grant to design the remainder of the Capitol Boulevard corridor. Most of it, or 2 projects to 100%, and then 3 projects to 60%. And we are actually currently starting right away for one of the projects. That's the Capitol Boulevard and X Street. That was designed under this design project. We have also recently acquired a property on the north-south connector that connects Trostbur Road to Lee Street. Okay, so again, just focusing on the new ones. You heard a little bit about this from Mary Heather just a few minutes ago, and then you've heard about it a lot from Water Resources and Sustainability, mainly Meredith Greer and Mary Heather Ames. And so I'm not going to touch on this one too much because you had all the information just a little bit ago. The next new project is the Dennis Street Roundabout. So this one was on the reserve list during the last cycle. And there's some words cut off. I should have mentioned at the beginning, if you notice small errors, typos, misspellings, things like this in these documents, they're actually going to go to something like 10 meetings. And so every time I pick this up, I'm going to find other little errors and make some corrections.
So Brandon, with that, on the least on my sheet, it doesn't look like, there's not a new on on the item, project number 11. It doesn't say new, it's just on
Yeah.
the Percival Creek. That doesn't say new on the sheet that you're having.
Yeah, and I've already corrected the actual workbook.
Okay, got it.
I
Okay,
noticed,
all right,
I
sorry.
noticed
That's
that
the one that
putting
we have.
together.
Thank you. It's too
I
teeny, I
noticed it.
can't see that one.
I have a little bit of a lag, so sorry if I keep on talking over folks, so. So again, the Dennis Street roundabout, we're adding probably toward the end of closer to 2029. Our intent is to pursue Safe Routes to School funding. We've been very successful at Safe Routes to School funding for the past 7 years, and so I anticipate it's going to take a few years before we make it up the prioritization list for the grant agency. The last one, Councilmember Swarthout, you actually touched on it when Mary Heather was talking about the signal upgrade project, and that is a capacity study for Trosper Road, the small segment between Little Rock Road and I-5. And really that is standing traffic daily. It's pretty bad. There's some movements that are really hard to make. And so the idea is that after the improvements on the other side of the interchange that we're working on right now, it should help a little bit because we're not going to have traffic backing up across I-5 right there. Fingers crossed, I guess. And then this would be the next phase, but we do want to see how the traffic patterns have changed. And then we're also anticipating Tyee Drive may extend further to the south, perhaps to Tumwater Boulevard interchange before we would pursue an actual construction project here. But this is really just to get ahead of it because right now it is still technically a failing interchange that we need to plan for. That's it for the new projects. And so on this slide, this is the last slide. I have a schedule and you can see normally I like to be here in June, early June, typically at the same time as the Transportation Improvement Program. Pretty much just about everything in transportation and engineering, we're behind right now just because we don't have enough staff right now. We're struggling to hire folks still. And so we missed out on June. So that was the ideal period to discuss projects and maybe add some or change them, but there still is time. You can see the colored scale on the left side of the screen. We're not in the orange or red yet. So if you have any projects that you want to talk about, anything that you want to consider adding or having us look at or change, it's still a great time to do so. So today we're doing the green arrow area right now. Next, we'll be starting planning commission process, and then Dan Smith will also be here to do the same spiel for the utilities here in a couple weeks. I think he's coming to the next meeting. And then in August, it starts moving more towards focusing on the overall comprehensive plan and less on the capital facilities plan, but it still will be touched in some of those meetings. And then we'll go to council work session in September, and then finally adoption at council in October. There is always the ability to add more briefings as needed. And then of course, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and specifically some of the older projects that we're not touching on, and you just want to know more, I'm always available to talk. And that's all I got. Again, I said I think we're going to end up with some extra time because I tried to bring this down to a half hour, anticipating another item. So that's all I have. No action today, though. So if you have any questions. Wow, you're an easy group today.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You did a great explanation. Thank you so much, especially the new ones that are coming up. So how are we progressing on Capitol Boulevard? Just to get an update, how's that all going? I'm surprised how much has already been done.
Yeah, we're pretty close to on schedule. That this is a big contractor. They have more employees than the city. And so they're always a good contractor to have on larger projects like this. They know what they're doing. They know how to set up a schedule and they know how to keep it. think they're saying that they're just slightly behind. As we look at it, we think that we're slightly ahead, but overall, obviously, things are going good. Wrapping up utility work, most of the utility work. And so even though you're seeing some transportation improvements out there on Sixth Avenue, the roundabout, and the interchange, it's gonna start being a whole lot more here pretty soon.
Very good. Very good. Well, good. Yeah, and I was just curious. I wasn't there for the 4th of July parade, so everybody got queued up okay on that street. Did that
Yeah.
work out?
Yeah, you
Did
know,
it? Okay, Michael's, yeah, okay.
it's funny how it seems like we always try to time our capital projects right around parade time. And we're already planning on doing that next year. Really what it comes down to, we're trying to avoid impacts to the school is the main thing.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
I'm a parent myself of 2 kids in school, and I can tell you that it's not a good thing if your kids are late, especially not a good thing if every student in a class is late, and we've run into that in the past. So we really try to get as much done as we can during the summer break for the school. And unfortunately, it does mean that we're impacting some of the summer events that happen. Now, we do put in specifications into our bid documents that require them to button up the sites for the parade, for example. Next year is going to be Israel Road is going to be a full new pavement. Mary Heather talked about that on the last presentation. So it'll be all new paving. A lot of the narrower stretches of sidewalk will be widened so that it's a consistent width. A lot of the driveways will be replaced, curb ramps. So it's going to look really nice. I'm gonna see if we can do whatever we can to get that project done before the parade. Otherwise, we'll just have a road that's sort of in the middle of getting worked on again. So
Oh, cool. And then we start our asphalt, and that improvement project will start later this summer, the restriping and pavement improvements.
that's actually already active. We're a couple weeks in.
Oh, is it after? Okay. I haven't been
Yeah, we
home.
are. They're focusing, they've done a couple of the roads that are like 83rd Avenue. They're working out on Henderson and Tumwater Boulevard. So unless you take those routes, you're not going to see it.
Mhm.
And then they're working on crack seal, but a lot of the overlay areas have not started yet.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering questions. So do we have any additional items here to discuss?
We do not.
No? Okay, anything else for the good of the order? All right. Okay, well, with that then, I will call the Thursday, July 6, 2023 Public Works meeting adjourned, and go out and enjoy some sunshine, you guys.
Thank you all.